welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. This is Church and World News. We're going to look at some news stories that are coming out today. We're going to begin with Israel. So there's been a ceasefire, if you didn't know, because there's going to be this exchange of hostages for prisoners. And that's going on right now as I'm recording this video. So here's where we're at with that. 24 hostages have been released by Hamas and are now back in Israel. And there's some videos and photos to look at with that we'll look at in just a minute. Among them are 13 Israelis, 10 Thais, like from Thailand, and 1 Filipino, says Qatar, which has been mediating between Israel and Hamas. The Israelis include 4 children aged 2, 4, 6, and 9, which I can't believe that anyone would find that acceptable on the Hamas side, but of course, we know what they're like, as well as an 85-year-old woman. Now, remember, if you're not really following this, back on October 7th, there was a horrific attack by Hamas where they broke through the border fence. They slaughtered, tons of civilians. And then for whatever reason, they chose certain people to bring back hostage to Israel. I don't know if they had a set goal, but it ended up being like over 200 people. I think it was like 240. And it was just anybody. Like you can see here, 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds, elderly. There were also people that were handicapped. So it was really brutal. So thankfully, some of them are now being returned. I would die if it was me, if that was my 2-year-old, 4-year-old wife, grandma, whatever. But thankfully, they're being returned. All right, continuing, Palestinian detainees held by Israel have now been released to the West Bank as a part of the deal. The group, and this is referring, I think, to the Palestinian detainees, the group is made up of 24 women and 15 teenage boys. The majority were being held in pre-trial detention. Of course, now I don't know the case with every single one of them, but I'm assuming that these were people, these 24 women and 15 teenage boys, were probably ones that were throwing stones or, attacking police or doing things like that. It's a big assumption, but I'm pretty sure that's why, because it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing where Israel went and kidnapped people and then held them in prison. They were apprehended by authorities, whereas on the Israeli side in the October 7th attacks, it was terrorists crossing the border and just capturing people, not caring who they were. So I don't think it's really comparable. But anyway, the last bullet point, under the terms of the deal, a total of 50 Israeli hostages and 150 Palestinian detainees are meant to be released over 4 days during a temporary ceasefire. There's this right here. So here are some of the pictures, this is the pictures of the ones in, I think, the first group. This is on CNN. It says, a second group of Israeli hostages are due to be released Saturday as part of a breakthrough truce that has brought a temporary pause to fighting and saw Palestinian prisoners freed and returned. 13 Israeli civilians were freed, along with 11 foreign nationals in the initial exchange. So, yeah, this is 13. So these would be the Israelis that were released and are now back. This is part of the first group. Now, the problem is, and by the way, I'm a little bit confused because on this CNN article, which was published just about an hour ago, it mentions the people from Thailand, the Philippines, but then it also has a Polish citizen, and that wasn't mentioned in that previous article. But anyway, whatever, just so that's on your radar, I guess. But okay, so this group has been released, but my understanding is that they're having some problems right now with the second group or the ones to follow. Israel has made a demand that this next group be released by midnight Israel time. And let's see, what time is it in Israel? What time is it in Israel? I wasn't thinking about doing this. It's 7:33 p.m. So they only have a few hours to figure it out, or else Israel's going to resume operations. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Yeah, the latest update here on Haaretz. Hamas is playing with us. We can't breathe anymore. neighbors of potential released hostages react to delay. So there's this delay going on, but let's all pray that it all works out. Gosh, here's a family. Let's see. I don't know if this is the 2-year-old. There's a 2.5-year-old. Yeah. Gosh, what a horrible thing. Okay, so here's some of the pictures and video. Let me rewind that. I think, okay, what does it say here? 9-year-old Ohad Monder, his mother Karen, and his grandmother Ruthie, who were rescued from Hamas, are being treated in the designated complex at the Schneider Pediatric Center of the Clalit Group. In photos, in video, the first meeting with Ohad's father and brother and family members. Oh my gosh, pray that you never have to go through something like this. This is truly awful. Okay, first photo of Daniel Aloni. Maybe it's supposed to be Danielle, I don't know. And her 6-year-old, her 6 years old daughter Amelia, after they were released yesterday from Hamas captivity. From Emmanuel Fabian, photos taken by IDF and published by the government press office show the released Israeli hostages being greeted by soldiers last night. I mean, this would be a horrible ordeal either way, whether you're one of the family or like whether you're one of the hostages, because it's like, I'm sure you're not really given any news as you're being held hostage. You have no idea what's going to happen to you, if you're going to end up dying, if you're going to be like hit in an airstrike by accident as Israel retaliates against Hamas. It must be a real, like, you'd have to have the patience of a saint to get through something like this, I would imagine, not knowing how things are going to turn out. And then like almost even worse, maybe if you are one of their family members and you have no idea what's going on with them, if they're still alive, how they're being treated, because at least the hostages know how they're being treated, and, maybe horrible things haven't happened. But if you're the family member on the other side, you don't know what's going on with them and how Hamas is treating them. So yeah. And then you have these punks that you may remember. I did a video recently where the Houthi rebels captured this vessel, the Galaxy Leader, and they took it because it was linked to an Israeli billionaire. So as you can see, they currently have that hostage and are celebrating it with a Palestinian flag, and I guess that's a Yemeni flag, I'm not sure, doing a lame little dance right there, hopping and skipping like a bunch of... Let's just move on. Okay, now we have some stuff going on with North and South Korea. What would fall under the category, I think, of rumors of war. Not that they're like necessarily, there's like an imminent threat of war, but this is on VOA, why a historic inter-Korean military pact broke down. Seoul, South Korea. A 2018 military agreement, once hailed as a historic attempt to reduce tensions between North and South Korea, appeared to reach its demise this week after both countries announced measures to step away from the pact. Hours after the successful Tuesday launch of North Korea's first military spy satellite, the administration of South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol announced a partial suspension of the accord, known as the Comprehensive Military Agreement, or CMA. After the announcement, South Korea said its military will resume reconnaissance and surveillance flights in border areas. Such activity was banned under the CMA, which established buffer zones, no-fly zones, and prohibited a wider range of other military activity near the border. In response, North Korea on Thursday, Thanksgiving, announced it would immediately restore all military measures, quote-unquote, halted under the deal, and vowed to, quote, deploy more powerful armed forces and new type military hardware, end quote, in the border region. So there's this kind of escalation going on. This is news this week, and who knows? Anything's possible at this point. I didn't even think that the Ukraine war was was possible, that it would ever be a reality, but it happened, and we're still dealing with that right now. And then we have this surprise attack from Hamas that people are like, oh no, Hamas is more concerned about maintaining their control and power and stuff like that. No, that wasn't true. And so what's going to happen next? The next, flashpoints potentially, like the big ones, to me seem like they're Taiwan and China wanting to take Taiwan, in their mind, take back Taiwan. They view it as a renegade province. And then this, conflict, this thing between North and South Korea. It feels like this is like a ticking time bomb. I don't know, like, if it's something that the secret combinations are kind of keeping in their back pocket for some future day, or I don't really know. Who knows? We'll find out in the millennium how everything happened. But either way, I feel like many people have thought that this is kind of a ticking time bomb, that maybe someday there will be some kind of conflict on the Korean Peninsula. And if there ever was a time for it to happen, maybe it would be now, because Europe and the West and the United States and everybody, they're focused on Russia, and now you have this thing going on in Israel. And so, the West's attention keeps getting divided between all these different things. So let's just see what happens. Okay, now in China, Chinese hospitals overwhelmed with sick children after surge in respiratory illness. Okay. That doesn't sound good. Are we going to be going through round 2 of, a pandemic and a lockdown and all that stuff? What's going on here? Hong Kong. Hospitals in northern China appear to be overwhelmed with sick children, quote unquote, as the country grapples with a surge in respiratory illnesses and clusters of pneumonia, prompting the World Health Organization to ask Beijing for more data. At the Beijing Children's Hospital in the capital, long lines of people were waiting to register during a visit by NBC News on Thursday. Waiting rooms were crowded with parents and children, some of them on IV drips. In a review of China's data, the World Health Organization said that the increase in cases came earlier in the season, quote, but not unexpected given the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions as similarly experienced in other countries. End quote. Okay, so they're saying maybe this is because of, now we're lifting the restrictions, so this is to be expected, that there's going to be a spike in people getting sick. Okay. According to the World Health Organization, Chinese health authorities did not detect new or unusual pathogens, and the rise in respiratory illnesses has not resulted in patient loads that exceed hospital capacities. There was no indication that the outbreak in China poses any global threat, and the World Health Organization advises against any travel restrictions, quote, based on the current information available on this event, end quote. Okay, so maybe this is nothing but something maybe just to be aware of. That would really suck if we end up having COVID-19 part 2. But we'll just have to keep an eye on that. Got a new thing going on in Ireland. 5 things to know about the riots in Dublin. So I went ahead and put my marker here for protests / riots. In this case, riots. And this time it's in Ireland. I have an Irish flag, excuse me, because it's not related to the Israeli-Hamas conflict. This is what happened, and then we're going to look at some videos. Protesters in Dublin began rioting and attacking police earlier this week after 3 children were injured in a knife attack outside a school. So children got attacked by somebody with a knife. Irish police arrested 34 people Thursday night after the rioters stormed across Dublin, setting fire to cars. According to Ireland's National Police Service, 32 of the 34 people arrested were charged for participating in rioting and destruction. Initial attack. Okay, so this is what it reportedly started this. 5 people, including 3 children, were injured on Thursday in a knife attack outside Gaelscoil Collaist Muir, a primary school in Dublin. Okay, so children were attacked at a school. Police said it appeared a man in his 50s attacked a number of people near the school, and members of the public intervened. The suspect also injured. The suspect was also injured and is under arrest. Police do not believe anyone else was involved in the name of the. Do not believe anyone else was involved in the man. In the name of the man detained was not revealed to the public. One member of the public told the BBC that he acted on instinct and hit the man in the head, and he fell down. Good job. The violence began after rumors were circulating that a foreign national was responsible for the attack. Okay, so a foreign national. And I saw things on X, I'm not going to necessarily go with it, but saying that it was, I think they were saying that he's like an Algerian or from Algeria. Okay. So they're thinking, I guess the rumors are that this would be like an attack from a Muslim, possibly in connection with what's going on in Israel. I don't know. That seems to be some of the posts that I saw on X. Continuing with the article, police have not released the suspect's nationality either. So I guess officially we don't know where he's from, but the writers believe that he was a Middle Easterner or North African or something like that. Anti-immigration protests started last year after the country created temporary refugee shelters to accommodate 65,000 people. As of August, 17 people have been arrested at protests linked to far-right groups. After Thursday's stabbing, a group of protesters broke through a police barrier and the scene became violent. Let's look at that right now. So here you go. You got the rioting going on. I guess maybe initially protests, but rioting, you see all the police there. Okay, and then it devolved into this. It doesn't matter what side you're on. It doesn't matter what the cause. This is never acceptable. Damage to property, rioting, looting. I'm not even, as you know, I'm not a big fan of protesting itself. I think that it's, there's a dumpster. It's basically just acting out. It's not the appropriate way to get things done. It doesn't get anything done except for stoke flames and increase the chaos in this world. And then here's another one. And that one looks a little bit more dramatic. My goodness, that's a bus. Looks like it's a double-decker bus. And then a car that's almost completely burnt to a crisp. Okay. So we have that going on in Ireland. Don't know if it's connected to the Israel-Hamas war. Don't know who the guy is, where he's from, at least officially. So I don't know. But there's different things going on across the world. I'm not able to capture all the protests and riots, but you have that in Dublin. You have the protests that have been going on in Spain against the socialists in Spain. And then, of course, you have pro-Palestinian protests and stuff like that. There was one in the UK. There's been a number here in the US. Again, I can't capture them all. Supposedly, there was the largest pro-Israel demonstration at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. So you have that. And this is all just this month. So right now, all I have turned on, let me just double check. Yes, is only November. Okay, so that's where that's where we're at so far. Okay, now let's turn our attention to Australia because, let's do the videos first. Disaster tracker, more footage of the devastating brush fire in Wanneroo, Perth, Western Australia. Okay, we got that. You have this bushfire emergency in Wanneroo. Firefighters battle multiple blazes as an unprecedented spring heat wave grips Western Australia. Here's some more. Okay, so there were a bunch of videos coming out about this fire in this location, and we've kind of been looking at Australia and kind of concerned about what's going to happen this next year. The reason why is because, oh gosh, hold on. Let me bring this tab back to this window. Because in recent years, I mean, really ever since 2004, but especially in recent years, and especially this year, there's all these different countries and states and territories and provinces that have had their largest wildfires, their worst wildfire seasons, the deadliest wildfires, the most destructive wildfires, and that's what I track here on this spreadsheet. And Canada this year had its worst wildfire season in Canadian history. Russia, another large country land-wise, had its worst wildfire season in 2021. California had its worst wildfire season in 2020, as well as its largest single wildfire, and a whole host of others. And so is Australia next. Now, you remember back in 2020, that was like the last time that Australia was really having large wildfires. I'm having a hard time determining Australia's worst wildfire season. I do know, I do know Australia's worst single wildfire. That was in 2020, as you can see right here on row 17. And it was the Gospers Mountain Fire. That was the largest wildfire in Australian history. But as a whole, the entire nation, in all the wildfires, I don't know what the worst year was. 2020 was really bad, but as I've tried to research this, I keep coming across kind of like conflicting information, and I don't know why it's so hard to get to the bottom of it. You'd think that you could just type in, oh, what was Australia's worst wildfire season? But it's not that easy. So once I find that out, I'll update this. But it could potentially be back in the 70s. That was like the last time before this one that there was a huge wildfire season, and then one time in the 30s. So I don't know. But Australia, excuse me. So the largest wildfire in 2020, and then the most deadly wildfire in 2009. Okay, so that's what's going on with Australia. And could this year be worse? Could we see its worst wildfire season? So on the Wikipedia article for the 2023 to 2024 Australian bushfire season, this is what it says. The 2023-2024 Australian bushfire season is the current season of bushfires in Australia. The spring outlook for the season prediction was for increased risk of fire for regions in Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, and the Northern Territory. Above average temperatures and below average rainfall occurred for most of Australia. The fuel load growth was elevated due to above average rainfall associated with prolonged La Nina atmospheric conditions over the previous 3 years. So you understand what that means? That means that a lot of plants grew and then later died, and therefore that's like fuel for wildfires. And so because the last 3 years, you have all this fuel, what they're calling fuel load growth, it could mean that it's going to be a bad fire season this year. Continuing, a significantly dry and warm winter over much of Australia in 2023 elevated the fire risk associated with these fuel loads. Other major contributing factors to the elevated fire risk include a strong El Nino in the tropical Pacific Ocean, an indicator for dry and hot weather patterns for eastern and southern Australia. Additionally, a sustained positive Indian Ocean dipole, and if you don't know what that is, because I didn't, is an irregular oscillation of sea surface temperatures in which the western Indian Ocean becomes alternately warmer and then colder than the eastern part of the ocean. So that led to drier conditions in southern and central Australia. Global sea surface temperatures had continued to be the warmest on record since April 2023, while July 2023 had been the hottest month on record for global air temperatures. These trends continued with Australia's winter becoming the hottest on record. So all that together could mean that it's going to be a really bad fire season. We'll just have to wait and see. But already there's been a bunch of stories and stuff and videos coming out of Australia, like the ones that we're seeing right here, where I don't know, we may be in for a ride. We'll just have to wait to see. We'll just have to wait and see. Is Australia going to join Canada and Russia and California and all these other places as having its worst wildfire season in history? Are we going to see the largest wildfire this year? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Okay. And lastly, let's go to Somalia and Kenya. We had already noted before that there's flooding going on this month in both Kenya and Somalia. Flooding, flash flooding. These are all the different places that I was able to confirm. And we have a new one right here. And I'm going to show you the video from this location. Okay, so here we go. So this is the Earth for Tomorrow account. Devastating flooding in Baardehiri, Gedo, Somalia. The Juba River overflowed, destroying infrastructure and cutting off Gedo from the rest of Somalia. Well, that's just nice. So, yeah, that going on. Looks like people being saved, rescued in a boat. All right, let's move on. Southern Gedo region of Somalia. Oh, and by the way, yeah, this right here, this is the place marker that I have right here. This is Baardehiri, okay, in Somalia. Here's another one, floodwaters. Here's another one, but this time this is in Kenya. It doesn't, I don't think it specifies where. So this is supposedly in Kenya. I do believe it. Okay. And then here's this one. This is in Mombasa. We already had Mombasa from before. Like we had Mombasa down here as one of the place marks. So, but it looks like this is additional footage coming out of here. Don't know how, recent it is. Not sure if this guy is just being a little like overly dramatic or if he's really in trouble. But either way, looks like Good Samaritans are going to help him out. And they caught him, and he's saved. All right. Climate change impact. Somalia now faces a once-in-a-century flood disaster. That's news to me. I don't think I remember reading that before. A once-in-a-century flood disaster with over 1 million affected. The Somali politicians and elites are out of touch. The country is facing huge effect of climate change, and our president is... Okay, whatever. I'm not going to read all that nonsense. But at least it looks like this girl's having a good time. She's enjoying the floods. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. Switch to the backstroke. Don't get that in your mouth, please. Flood water is never good. It's my understanding that flood water is a good transmitter of disease in some situations. So, ma'am, please don't get that water in your mouth. All right, that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.